All right, welcome into an instant reaction podcast from the Patriot Nation Network over here. It's your boy Pat Lane, as always, my guy Matt St. Jean. And as always, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go to fanduel.com/Boston. They are the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media. And Matt, this is nothing less than one of the worst games I've ever seen in my entire life. Just absolutely atrocious on all ends of it. The Patriots were terrible, but the Chargers didn't play much better.
No, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like the game today, like it's just, it's so like insane and sad that we've come back around it being like kind of morbidly hilarious to watch what this team has become, especially when it's like, I think the point that broke me today was when the offense finally showed signs of life and the offensive line is just plowing through and Ramondre is getting it done. And then, of course, he gets hurt, fumbles the ball in the process, and that's it. And I was like, all right, well, that's the game. And I mean, that's how the season's gone, too. I know we're going to get into the offensive woes, but just another injury to the pile. And defense is good enough to keep it a one-score game. The Patriots now lead the league in one-score losses this season, I believe, with 7. They flashed that during the game. So
it's unreal.
The 2023 New England Patriots.
It means real close. But all right, I forgot to do the intro song. Here's the intro song. And listen, this is one I'm shocked, and maybe it's just because you even said you didn't know this song. I'm surprised they didn't play this.
It's too young, Pat.
I guess that's true. I'm surprised they didn't play this at the game. But so I'm rectifying that problem right here. And I think we got a pretty good intro. Here we go.
Me, I'm super fly, super duper fly, super duper fly. Me, I'm super fly, super duper fly, super duper fly. Me, I'm super fly, super duper fly, super duper fly. Me, I'm super fly. When the rain hits my window, I take it.
All right, that's enough. Little Missy Elliott back in the day. Little Missy Elliott with Timbaland. That song, I was like, they got to play it. Can't Stand the Rain. They did not. But as Matt pointed out, they did play little CCR. Have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? And everyone was singing along, which was fun.
For anybody out there who hasn't checked it out, there's an old article now. It must be 3 or 4 years old that The Athletic did. It was an interview with the guy who DJs the Patriots games and also I think the Bruins and Celtics. And he talked about having a whole playlist for like rain games for songs to play in those scenarios. And have you ever seen The Rain was on there? And now every single time I hear it played at Gillette, I think back to that one article. So I'll have to see if I can find it and tweet it out later. And the guy's on Twitter too. I think if you're at sporting events, he's DJing and you like tweet at him with a song request. Sometimes he plays it. So.
That's a cool idea. Maybe next time. Next time with the tweet. If maybe that would have worked out if I had tweeted at him like, "Hey, you gotta play Can't Stand the Rain" by Missy Elliott. Like, come on now. So, but no. Anyways, look. I mean, it was an awful game. As Matt pointed out, we did meet up. I think right before halftime, which was cool. It was cool.
Matt Minito again, not me.
Yes, that's correct. Not this Matt.
You have met Matt. You have met Matt Minito. Matt Minito. You've met Matt Minito more times than you've met me in person.
That's true.
So.
And it's only one. So, but no, it's cool. It's cool. And you know, it was so bad. And you know, I said to Matt, like, I didn't care. Like, I cared because of course I care, but like, I have a voice. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't normally at the games. I don't have a voice because I'm yelling and screaming. Nicole, my wife even said to me, she's like, wait, how come you have a voice? Like, what's going on? And I was like, what am I supposed to yell at? There's nothing to get mad at. There's nothing to get excited about. Like, it's just, you know, it's you want them to lose, right? Because we want to get the pick. And now because Arizona won today, they're in the number 2 slot. Carolina was in the lead for about 4 seconds, but because Arizona wins, now you're in the 2 spot. You want to get the best pick possible, right? What's challenging about that is that it becomes difficult to feel good about the team and to enjoy the team when they're playing so poorly, right?
Yeah.
I will say, like the other one for me is that I just feel like, as you said, they've lost a ton of one-score games, right? They have 10 losses, 7 of them have been by one score. They got blown out by the Cowboys, and they got blown out by the Saints, and they get blown out by another team.
They had the what do you call it? They didn't get blown out. It was the 2-score loss to the Dolphins, which was a 1-score game late in the fourth until the defense
That's it.
gave up that play, and that was I think that was Jack Jones who messed up that assignment on the late Dolphins touchdown.
It was. Yeah,
that was kind of the play that started things in the final descent there out of the building for him.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things, but like I don't know, man. Like the fact that 7 of those games are 1-score games. I mean, it's pretty impressive. The fact that the defense has kept them in it. I mean, today was an example. It was just like, do anything. Just do anything. I mean, they lost 6-0. Like, it is insane to think about.
And I think what's really funny, too, is you look at the stats. The Patriots and the Chargers had the same number of first downs. The Patriots outgained them by 16 yards, had more yards per play, and killed them on the ground, 148-29 there. But, penalties, they had less penalties for less yards than LA did. But there's the one turnover in there, which kills you. And I think it was the punt return. Is that what it was that set up the other field goal for the Chargers?
Yep.
There was not a single snap taken inside the red zone for this entire game on either team, except for I think the last kneel down by the Chargers. That's
right after
which was at the 20-yard line. So it's that kind of football game. And
crazy.
I look at a game like this and the way it went down, and it's one of two things: either Staley and the GM there for the Chargers need to go immediately, or this means Bill Belichick needs to stay. Like, it's one of those, because there's no reason this should have been a 1-score game with how the Patriots played today, and yet here we are.
Well, what's interesting about it is that someone tweeted out, and I don't remember who it was. Someone tweeted out that Quentin Johnston's one of the worst first round tight ends ever. Maybe it since N'Keal Harry. Wide receiver. First round wide receivers.
Easy to assume, yeah.
The problem is I'm all screwed up. I'm watching. I said first down and I said tight end. I'm watching the Chiefs game right now, and they just threw a first down past the Taylor Swift's boyfriend. But it's the thing about it is that he's really bad. He's really bad. He's slow. He can't catch very well. It's just like what did they see in him to have him be the first wide receiver taken, to draft him over both Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison? I just don't see. I don't understand. It's like when the Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry. It's like I just don't understand what you saw in that guy.
Well, this is worse than the Harry one to me, because at least Harry was like super productive and like his tape was questionable, but he was also like very consistent with what he was good at, and he had what looked like legitimate football skills.
Right.
And
by the way,
Johnson,
as Matt pointed out, he was the second wide receiver taken.
Yeah.
Matt pointed out, second wide receiver JSN went 20 instead of 21.
Yeah. Yes. But no, Quentin Johnston, I had him as a first-round receiver, but he was also very much a boom or bust guy. Freak athlete, can do everything on a football field. Can he catch the football? Can he run routes? Sometimes. How often? Is really a big question mark. You watch his highlight reel, and he looks like he could be Devontae Adams out there. And you also watch some of his games, and you question why this guy had a scholarship in college.
Right.
Like that's how it was. And I don't mind buying in on a guy like that in the first round. But my thing for the Chargers is like the Chargers are what the Patriots are right now, but just like supercharged in that their offense has a lid on it. They have nobody who can stretch the field. Everything's within 10 yards. The problem for the Chargers is they can't run the ball at all. Their offensive line is awful. They have no team speed, so even though they have a superhuman at quarterback who can throw the ball 75 yards, you can't take advantage of it at all. So you're just living in these tight windows, living in these third and longs, and that's why it looks like what the Patriots do. And Quentin Johnston was always a raw developmental guy. Why you're counting on a guy like that in year one to change that makes no sense. Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison were both much more polished guys who are also legitimate deep threats right now. And passing on them, I think, is practice there.
It's one of the things for me, right, is like if you're in that situation, and I think what they have in spades, by the way, what they have a lot is guys that are big guys that are skilled and can go get the ball. Keenan Allen does a great job of it, right? Mike Williams does a great job of it. Now, Mike Williams is hurt all the time, but still.
Yeah. Josh Palmer. He's good at it.
Does a nice job, right?
But he's injured.
But they don't have any fast guys. Like, why? Zay Flowers would be the perfect guy for that situation. He's got the speed, and even if you want to go with Addison, those are guys that can stretch the field, right? They can beat you with their speed. They don't have a guy like that. And they went out and drafted essentially at his best a Mike Williams clone. And it's like, well, you have Mike Williams already. Why are you drafting another guy like Mike Williams? It doesn't make any sense.
And Quentin Johnston could become like that deep threat, I think, because he has the really high-end speed, but we knew it was going to take a little bit of time for him to click. He was, you look at the reason I said Devontae Adams. It took Devontae Adams like 3 or 4 years in the league to put it all together and break out. And that's the kind of guy Johnston would be if he does end up succeeding here in the NFL. And I just, I never got that. There was kind of an obvious landing spot here. And then beyond the deep threat stuff, they also don't have guys who create after the catch. Keenan Allen used to be that guy. He still is that guy at points, but he's old now. You can see it. He's not consistent. He doesn't have that juice anymore. And it's basically all possession receivers. So giving a guy who had after the catch juice, like either of those guys we talked about, I think made sense. Johnston has it in theory, but he's more, schemed touches. He's a very different athlete than like Kadarius Toney, but it's still very much the same schematic problems on offense.
Right. Yeah. So it's strange. But anyways, back to the actual game. I mean, there was almost nothing to see. It was crazy. I mean, the Patriots defense, I think they're approaching elite level. Like they're getting to the point where the Patriots defense is very close to elite. And, I think that the Chargers offense, as I said, isn't necessarily, hasn't been the best all year long. But my goodness, man, the Patriots defense just consistently, and we're talking about, John Jones, J.C. Jackson, and Miles Bryant. Right? Jalen Mills made a play or two. Right? I mean, we're not talking about guys in the secondary, and obviously Doug is back there and whatnot, but and then you have Barmore up the middle. Godshaw, I thought, had a good game today. Lawrence Guy played pretty well, I thought. Anthony Jennings is a guy that I think is proving himself to be a guy that is a reliable edge player. Maybe not a pass rusher, but he's certainly a reliable edge player against the run. And he's been solid against the run all year long. It was again today. Made some really nice plays today. So even Josh Uche made a play today, which is like, I haven't heard his name in a month and a half. So it was nice. It was nice to see.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you say that they're elite, but also right now they're really bad at forcing turnovers. That's still something they have not been able to do all season long. And they still can't rush the passer. I think today was honestly a lot of LA not being very good on offense. I think there was a lot of that. And I mean, the other issue, I think Patriots defense is doing a good job shutting teams down on the scoreboard right now. I do think some of that has to do with one, the teams they're playing, and two, the fact that opponents know you only need to score about 10 points and you're guaranteed to win. I mean, this stretch is against Gardner Minshew, Tommy DeVito, and Justin Herbert's a good quarterback, so he doesn't belong in that group, but a rainy day in Foxborough with a depleted offense. So
listen, you're not wrong.
I'll take it. Yeah.
They've allowed 26 points in 3 games. That's pretty good, right? And now
it's the best 3-game stretch of any defense this season, I believe.
Yes. And they've allowed 68 in the last 5? I mean, 68 points in 5 games is nothing to sneeze at, right? And so
they're keeping teams off the scoreboard.
Right. And you're right. The biggest thing for them is they're not forcing turnovers. And I think the part of that comes from the fact that you don't have any elite pass rushers right now. I think Christian Barmore is a very, very good player on the inside. The problem is if he gets double teamed on every play because he's the only pass rusher they have, well, what are we going to do? And Josh Uche can't beat never mind double team. He can't be one guy to get in the backfield to make a play. So,
well, and they've also been in these positions where it's first down and you got Anthony Jennings out there because the other team might run and Josh Uche can't get on the field, which limits the down-to-down effectiveness. Sure. I think if you took this defense and you add Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones, and Matt Judon back to it, they're elite. I think the way they're playing, and I think that makes everybody else better. And I think there are still some holes you want to fill on this defense, but I think this is a defense you can win a Super Bowl with. That I believe wholeheartedly when it's healthy. And you look at who's going to be on this team next year, who's going to be on this defense next year, even if we forget Kyle Duggar and what's going to go on there. I feel really good about where this defense is and the way that they can fill it out in free agency. So they should have a championship, a bowl defense here for the next year or two minimum. It's just about, if you get an offense that can do literally anything, a quarterback who can read defenses and throw the ball down the field,
right,
and receivers who will support their quarterbacks. Shout out Devontae Parker.
What a scumbag that guy is, dude.
Yeah, man.
He drives me crazy.
He's going to be off the team too because it's Juju's contract is tougher to move. You can really only get rid of it if you trade him, and I don't think somebody's going to take him. And he's a good locker room guy, so I think Juju is probably here next year as a depth receiver, veteran presence, kind of that type of guy. And Parker is see ya on March, first day of the league year.
Freaking stinks, man. And my cousin, shout out to my cousin who loves Devontae Parker, loves him. He's like, oh, he's a beast, and he's a bit. I'm like, no,
2019.
He's not. He was good. He was good. He isn't good right now. He just isn't. And so, it's just not. It's one of those situations for the Patriots that I look at it and just think, this guy's got to go. You got to get this guy off your freaking team, man. And and he's causing dissension in the locker room, and that's the hard part for me. And so I don't know. So the hard part, right, is that you start to look at it and you say, okay, who can we keep around? And people in the chat are talking about firing Bill O'Brien. And look, I don't disagree with that. He hasn't been good. At the same time, we're also talking about they have the number 2 pick in the draft right now. If the season ended today, do you want to win, or do you not want to win? I think that's fans got to make up their mind here. Do you want to win or not want to win? We saw what the Panthers did today. The Panthers didn't win, but they came awfully close against the Bucs team that
Panthers.
Wasn't great, but that Bucs team is pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. And so the fact that they were able to almost win that game, right? They had a 4th and 1 that Bryce wasn't able to complete the pass, but they were right in that game. And so, that's one of those things for me that I look at it and just say, man, if you fire Bill O'Brien and now you get that interim bump, I don't know. I feel like that's not. I don't want that. I don't want to win a game here. I want to lose.
We're not doing anything in season here. You keep the staff now. I think my concern with Bill O'Brien, I think he's much better than the offense we've seen out there. I think a lot of the issues we've seen with the offense out there is that the vision is good and the players can't execute it. And we've seen Bill O'Brien be a good enough teacher for a long time in this league and in college. He's been too good at it for me to believe that he's the reason why guys aren't learning what's going on here. So that makes me think it's probably not all on him. That said, we're looking at what's effectively the worst or the second worst offense in all of football right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to bring a guy like that back. It's hard to bring a guy like that back if you're getting rid of the head coach. And we're assuming it's going to be new quarterbacks, plural, there next year. And one of them is going to be a young guy. Is he the guy to coach up a young quarterback in that position? I can't say no, but I also don't feel confident about yes right now. I definitely don't feel confident about yes. So if they move off of him and say, we want somebody else, we're going to handpick somebody for whoever the next quarterback is going to be, I can't fault that approach.
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, it's one of those funny situations, right, that we talk about when you look at whether it's good or not. I was chatting about, and someone in the chat was saying kind of something similar. I was talking to someone at the game about this. The worst thing you can have is a good quarterback. That's the worst thing you can have is a good quarterback. You either want a great quarterback or you want a crap quarterback. Because if you have a good quarterback, you can kind of dance around that, hey, we're almost in the playoffs. We're not quite in the, but we're there and we're close. Because, you can compete with a good quarterback. The Giants are the perfect example of this. There's the Giants. They got a good quarterback in Daniel Jones. Is he great? Absolutely not. Is he terrible? I would say he's not terrible. He's good. But they gave him this massive contract because you have to give him this massive contract. You don't have a choice. He's a starting quarterback. He played well last year. You got to give him the money. And the Vikings with Cousins, Matt, is a good example too. But like, it's one of those situations where, hey, if everything works out perfectly, you feel like things are okay. If everything doesn't work out perfectly, you're in trouble. And, the Patriots now have 2, 3, 4, however many you want, really crappy quarterbacks on the team. And so, nobody is now looking at it saying you have a good quarterback. And Brandon's right. Brandon is in the chat saying Jones is terrible and he's been awful this year. But what did he do last year? He looked pretty good last year, right? And Mac Jones looked pretty good his rookie year. If Mac Jones had played the way he played his rookie year the rest of the way through, we'd be sitting here saying, well, what are you going to do? You got to pay Mac Jones. He keeps playing pretty well. Now we know. We know he's not that good. We know he stinks. So we don't have to worry about paying him. And I think that's a silver lining here is that we're not sitting in this 8 to 9 range, right? In this 7 and 10 range. Like we're sitting here saying this team stinks. We need a hard reset. Probably going to get rid of the whole coaching staff, and you need basically a whole new offense. The defense, I think, a few pieces here and there, but you basically need a whole new offense. And, luckily for the Patriots, I think that now we're going to be drafting at the top of the draft because of it.
Yep. And now you got a chance to go fix your offense here with one pick in theory. And that's probably overstating it a little bit here, but
right.
You
could be though.
If you go from awful to average at a position, that can do wonders for you. And if they get a quarterback who is just average as a rookie, this offense goes probably from bottom 2, bottom 3 in the NFL to bottom 12, which I'll take right now. And bottom 12 with this defense, and you're winning 6 or 7 games, and you can feel good about the direction you're going, and then you see if you can build off of it. And, it's the Cardinals winning today with the Patriots loss. It's Thursday is a winnable game because it's going to be Mitch Trubisky, but I also don't think so with that Steelers defense. I think this offense might somehow score negative points. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Denver looks good enough right now. Obviously, Kansas City. I think the Kansas City game is going to be closer than people expect because they always dial up good game plans for Patrick Mahomes.
And the Chiefs, frankly, their offense hasn't been that great lately.
But the defense is really good now in Kansas City.
Correct.
And that's going to be really tough for them. They're not going to score much, and they're not going to beat the Bills again. And then it's just that Jets game. That's the only game I think you're worried about them winning. And now with the Cardinals win, Patriots can win one game and comfortably have a top 2 pick in this draft.
Correct.
So they are locked into having either the number 2 quarterback or Marvin Harrison Jr. here at worst, depending on what they want to do, or a lucrative trade back. And that's a decent spot to be. And I know the offense is really bad right now, and I think the offensive line looked rough at times today. They were able to run block well, and I'm going to discount some of the Trent Brown stuff today because he looks so hurt trying to move out there. I think you could bring back this line and feel somewhat comfortable with it, at least as a step in a progression. You're not the line you're putting out there next year isn't the one you want to win a Super Bowl with, but it's good enough to put a rookie quarterback behind with a little bit more investment into the depth this offseason. So then you're just hitting quarterback and receivers, and if you can hit on both, which everybody's trying to do, you hit on both, and this thing gets jump started and you get going in a hurry.
Right. Well, and I think too, when you look at what the Patriots have offensively, right? Look, Bailey Zappi, I know there are Zappi fans out there that love Bailey Zappi and think that he's the next guy and he's the savior, and he's not. He's not. I'm sorry, he's not.
He's really bad.
We're at this.
Today.
I'm telling you, that first quarter drive, there was one play where he had he had Hunter Henry. He's rolled out to his right. Hunter Henry was just right in front of him. Henry was just standing in front of him. I mean, they're running across the field. Henry's running across the field this way, and Zappy's running with them. And he's just sitting there. And I'm like, would you throw the ball to Hunter Henry, please? And then he finally saw him and threw it behind him. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Then on the next play, again, he's kind of moving around in the pocket. He's got Juju open, and he throws it on the ground next to Juju. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And look, I'll tell you, we've seen all sorts of crap from Mac Jones this year. Mac Jones isn't the answer either, right? But I'm watching this game saying, well, neither is friggin' Bailey Zappi. Like, what is going on here? You know, and so
when it's
it just is what it is.
Yeah, like we're the boat's halfway in the water right now. The arrangement of the deck chairs doesn't matter. We're going down either way. Like we're more than halfway underwater at this point. Like we're on the stern that's just barely sticking out of the water right now. That's where we're at. And we can, if we want to change quarterbacks, we can change quarterbacks. Why not? We can keep moving it around.
Yep.
You know, it's just throw a new quarterback in there every time somebody throws a pick. Like we could do that. Why not? But it's not going to make a difference. And you get to this point too. I know people have voiced complaints with how Bill Belichick has handled this. When you have 3-4 bad quarterbacks on a roster, there's no good way to handle it. There's no way it's going to look good. There's no way it's going to work. The problem is that you got 3 or 4 bad quarterbacks on the roster. You solve the appearance issue by solving the fact that you just need better players there.
Right.
I just want to address this real quick because I've seen a lot of complaints about Bill talking to the press after the game today and the answers he was giving. I honestly liked the answer he gave. Belichick never throws players under the bus.
Never.
He doesn't give specific scheme things. It's just a long-standing policy of his that he's never going to give answers that are going to possibly put his players in a worse position, either with the media or with opponents, anything like that.
Right.
And he stuck to it. And you can love him or hate him for it, but he's been the same guy for 30 years, and don't change up on him now. Like,
yeah,
this is who he is. He's not going to tell you the exact specific reasons behind every decision they make. He didn't do it before. We all loved the we're on to Cincinnati stuff when that happened, and he refused to give answers when they're questioning Brady. You can't, go the other way when there's no bad quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really what it comes down to, yeah.
And Bill deserves criticism for what's going on with this team. There's no doubt about that. But the media stuff, it's Bill being Bill, and it feels a lot like select people in the press being upset that Bill has, done this for years and finally being able to play the gotcha card or whatever and get back at him.
That's what it is. They're pissed at him. They've been pissed at him for years. They want answers. He doesn't give sound bites. He doesn't.
No.
And they hate him for it. They've always hated him for it. And so you just okay, fine, you can hate him for that, but it's one of those things, man. I don't know. Oh God, Josh said something about Thornton. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. He didn't. I don't think it was Thornton specifically, but he did kind of voice issues with the offense.
He can't catch the ball.
Which is what did I think it was on here last week at some point where I said something about how I'd be okay with them winning games if it's because the young offensive players showed up and that's why they were doing it.
Right.
Well,
I mean, that's right. Like, there was your opportunity right there, and he just
that could have won them the game. That legitimately could have been. That could have turned into a touchdown drive, and that would have won them the game. And instead,
100%.
go and credit to Bailey Zappi too for he was asked about it and he took the blame for it, even though it wasn't on him. And I will. I'll credit both of the main quarterbacks there in Zappi and Mac Jones, and that they seem to be handling this very professionally with the press and Mac. That's one thing I didn't like in this, but by all accounts, Mac has been handling the situation very well behind closed doors, and with Zappi, he's being a good teammate. He's being encouraging, and you got people on Twitter out there posting the one picture of him where he's got his head down in between sets or whatever, throwing the football, and it's like, all right, you're trashing the dude when he's down. There's no need for that.
Right. Yeah. It just, it's that's difficult. Right. And so, but again, I mean, the offense is such a disaster right now, that I just it's it's rough, right? And look, I mean, if Devontae Parker doesn't land on top of a defender, they might win the game. Like, that was a nice catch by Parker. It was a nice throw by Zappi, and Parker just unfortunately landed on top of the defender and didn't land on the ground. If he had landed on the ground, he would have landed on the ground in bounds. But because he landed on the defender, he wasn't technically down. And so his feet land out of bounds, and that's the end of that,
I don't think he would have been. I think his foot went out of bounds before he landed on the guy.
So maybe you're right. So maybe he would have been out of bounds no matter what. But it was close.
But at least his quarterback can put it where only he can catch it, though. That's the nice thing.
That's a great point. So I just can't. I can't with those freaking guys.
Done with that, dude.
All right, let's hit a break because we're running behind on the break. Let's hit a break and then we'll finish up here. I mean, there's a lot we can talk about, but let's we'll finish up here. There we go. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. MA 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $5 pre-game money line wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. GamblingHelpLineMA.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. All right, Patriots lost again today, so now they're 2-10. Cardinals won, right? So now they have 3 wins, which is real nice. So that's good for the Patriots. So now you say, okay, we're moving forward from the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals have their bye next week, right? So the Cardinals have their bye next week. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's got to be. I don't think you have any buys later than that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have week 14 bye. I have James Conner.
I kind of think it's weird to even have buys this late in the season. You shouldn't have buys after Thanksgiving. That should be like I feel like they should all be in October and November, and you just fit it in then.
Yeah. So we'll see. But either way, if Carolina's strength of schedule is actually better than the Patriots right now, which is kind of crazy to think about, but their strength of schedule is better than the Patriots right now. So if the Patriots were to lose out and the Panthers were to win one game, just one, they got the Falcons still, they got the Bucks again, right? They got the Saints with Jameis Winston next week because it looks like Carr's going to be out for a few weeks. So in that situation, if they win a game, the Patriots get the #1 pick. If Carolina can't win a game, then the Patriots get the #2 pick, and then the Bears ended up with the #1 pick, right? Which is wild that the Bears ended up with the #1 pick. But you got to assume that the Bears are going to be drafting what's it called?
Marvin
a quarterback.
Harrison Jr.?
You would think that the Bears are going to be drafting a quarterback. And
You'd have to, man.
maybe they believe in Justin Fields enough. I don't, in my opinion.
I hope they're dumb enough to do it. Well, I mean, and the other thing is if they're going to keep Fields, especially with where they're picking, I wouldn't be shocked if they trade out of the #1 pick there for a team that does want a quarterback too. I mean,
I agree with you.
That's the whole issue here for the Patriots. I've seen somebody mention, hey, like the Patriots are at 3, the Cardinals aren't going to want a quarterback, so it's not going to matter. Yes, but the Cardinals might trade with somebody who wants a quarterback, and you get jumped. Or you're in the Bears Trubisky position where you're at 3 and you got to give up real draft capital to move up 1 spot to pick a quarterback because they're putting it up for sale. So, being able to control that, your destiny for that pick is nice. And, a real shot at the #1 overall pick. If we're going down, let's go all the way down.
That's the way I feel about it. And honestly, it's one of those things where like it'd be the best thing. And you look at the Colts. And obviously the Colts aren't what what you want to base your franchise off of. But look at the Colts, and nothing ended up happening with it because they didn't have the right guy. In my opinion, they never really had the right guy at head coach. But they sucked that 1 year when Peyton Manning got hurt, and they get the number 1 pick and they get Andrew Luck in. And they were never able to protect Andrew Luck the way they should have. They were never able to build pieces around him enough to help him out significantly. But you got Andrew Luck in the building, right?
And they were in the AFC Championship in year 3 of Andrew Luck.
Right. And so if the Patriots can get a situation where, now, in my opinion, I believe that Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick. That's just my opinion. I know some people like Drake May. I like Caleb. He's my number 1 guy. Matter of fact, I'm trying to. I thought maybe we can try to get hashtag scrub for Caleb. I don't know if that really works. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, like suck for luck, scrub for Caleb. It doesn't really work that well, but whatever. So either way, I think that it's one of those things where you got to get that guy in the building. You got to get in the building. Now, if the Patriots have the number 2 or number 3 pick, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure. What you can do. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. I like the idea of, what if you're 3 and the Bears are 4? What if the Bears will move up 1 pick to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and you can take, Carolina's 2nd round pick next year?
Yeah.
Right? And Carolina's 2nd round pick next year is going to be a high pick to move back 1 spot, and instead of taking Marvin Harrison Jr., you take whatever, someone else. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But the biggest thing for me is that it's just going to depend on, and like you mentioned this before, if you want the number 1 pick, you have to lose out. But if Carolina's not going to win another game, it doesn't matter. You can win a game still.
Yeah.
And still get the number 2 overall pick, right? And so that's important for the Patriots, right? That's important for the Patriots to look at and say, okay, we can still win a game and still be at number 2. Now, if you win a game, if you win next week in Pittsburgh against Mitch Trubisky, and then Carolina ends up winning another game, then you're like, oh crap, we could have gotten the number 1 pick, and it sucks, right? But it is what it is. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about that. And so,
and the guys are going to keep. I mean, all these players are fighting for their jobs, and it's, if there was one reason to bring Bill Belichick back as head coach, I'd argue it's the way he's kept the locker room together too. Because outside of a couple guys on the offense giving quotes to the media, by and large, it's been a very tight ship, despite how badly they're losing. You've got guys still fully bought into what's going on with the way they're playing out there, which is incredibly impressive. And it's funny too, because you think everybody makes Bill out to be this difficult coach who nobody wants to play for, and that's not what you see out there. This isn't an effort thing. These guys just aren't good.
Yeah.
And the few players that they thought were good on the offensive side of the ball are either hurt or not nearly as good, and they missed on the evaluations.
Right.
I think that's kind of what it's come down to. And then, at the end of I think in the draft, they probably do end up with that number 2 pick. Just, if Carolina's winning a game, I do think the Patriots are also going to be winning a game, because that Carolina team is awful.
Yeah.
I'd
least
love it if they did.
Getting points, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That offense here might actually win a few games.
Yes. But I'd love it for them to win. But if we end up with a number 2 pick, it's basically going to come down to how comfortable is whoever's making the call in April with whoever the number 2 quarterback on the board is.
Right.
And it's a big question, because sometimes teams love that guy, and sometimes they get a little bit picky and they don't love him. Or it's also about who the number 2 quarterback is. We do that Drake May, Caleb Williams thing. Do they think Jaden Daniels is in that conversation? That's something that started to come up about Daniels being a high 1st round pick now, and we'll see how much steam that actually gets here. But yeah, and the other thing I'll tell you too, if they opt for a trade back or Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever, you watch that Pac-12 championship game Friday night. Both of the quarterbacks on that field are better than anybody on the Patriots roster.
That's correct.
I don't know if they're good. No, they may be bottom tier NFL quarterbacks, and they are actively better than the guys the Patriots are putting out there. And it's also funny if you go back and look at Michael Penix and Bo Nix's histories. Pretty sure Nix started, his first year starting at Auburn was Mac Jones's first year starting at Alabama.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was something like that. So older quarterbacks, But guys who have the basics down and who can make all the throws, and you feel confident about them being at least a high-level backup caliber guy, I think that's your worst case. Not your worst case. Your worst case with any quarterback is that they can't play and they bottom out of the league. So there's no floor. But
right, and I think the big thing is if you're sitting at 2 and Caleb Williams is your guy, he's your number one guy. He's the quarterback that you're like, okay, he's a franchise-altering player. So 2 things, right? 2 things. They can do one of 2 things. They can try to trade up for the number 1 pick, which I don't love. It just really depends on what the Bears are willing to give up.
Well, and it also, if you and the Bears both want the same quarterback, the price to move up
is going to be
way too. It'll be prohibitive. Yeah, you're going to have to give up like 3 first-round picks to move up a spot,
which is just not worth it. Of course, right? It just depends, right? So just to give an idea, because TJ asked a question about what does it typically cost to move up from the first pick to the second pick. If you go to the Rich Hill draft chart, and again, the Rich Hill draft chart. I mean, we're a little biased because Rich Hill's on this network, but the Rich Hill draft chart is really kind of what you're looking at, right? It's one of those things that, hey, all right, let's see what the value chart is, just so we have an idea. The number 1 pick is 1,000 points. The number 2 pick is 717 points. The number 33 pick is 180 points. So you're talking about the difference in value. And the difference in value is roughly the 18th pick in the draft, 17th or 18th pick in the draft. So you're talking about 2 first-round picks to move up from 2 to 1.
And you could pretty much always guarantee that when there is a QB trade in the top 5, top 10 of the draft, you can just go ahead and add like another first-round pick in 100%. Value on top of that. And I love Rich Hill and his draft value chart, but also the values kind of break down at the top because because when it's the top of the draft, you're not trading for a draft pick, you're trading for a prospect, and it's all about the value of that prospect. That's why, if you're trading for a defensive end at the top, it's not going to be as expensive as if you're trading for a quarterback at the top. So moving from 2 to 1 there, I think would be incredibly difficult and not worth it for this team. So, it's going to be number 2 and how they feel about that guy. And, it's the thing that you have on your side here as a Patriots fan is it's the Bears picking ahead of you. And man, oh man, they usually mess it up when they're picking a quarterback. Really so if you pick, if it's a pick between 2 quarterbacks and you get to pick the one the Bears like or the one the Bears don't like, you can make a lot of money going with the one the Bears don't like. So that's a good spot to be in.
Great point. Now it might be a new regime, but still, it was an old regime that drafted Trubisky too. So Mike Larry mentions talking about the 18 free agents set to leave the Patriots, and that's a conversation we have to have, of course. Someone mentioned Jim Harbaugh. Do not, under any circumstances, do not let Jim Harbaugh anywhere near this goddamn franchise.
Hey, shout out to number 1 Michigan, though.
Hey, go good for them. I don't want him anywhere near this franchise. Nowhere. And then someone asked about what can we get for Bill Belichick if Bill Belichick is going to move on. All right. If Bill Belichick moves on and goes somewhere else, I'd be surprised if you didn't get at least a second-round pick from him, if not a first-round pick. And I think, a first-round pick, you're talking about a mid-level first-round pick. So let's just say he went to somewhere like LA. But you're probably not getting a first-round pick from them this year. But maybe a 2025. Like my thought is a 2025 first-round pick because give them a year, get a little bit better, and then go from there. And that's kind of the situation that I think you're in, and that helps. It's going to help you in the long run.
When you look at the Sean Payton trade that just happened, I think as kind of a rubric for it. The only difference is the Sean Payton trade. I think Denver really wanted Payton, and they were kind of in a spot where they were held over a barrel for it. That's not going to be the case here with Bill, so you're going to get less. But the Sean Payton trade was a first and a second for Sean Payton and a third-round pick.
Yeah.
So they did send that back, and
which by the way,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's just like a second-round pick for Bill. That wouldn't shock me, or like a conditional thing. It's like a second that converts to a first if they make the playoffs in his first year type of thing.
Right. And DA is mentioning, Harbaugh's record in the NFL. He's right. You're right. Harbaugh's record in the NFL was great. I don't care. I don't care. The guy's an asshole. He's an asshole. I don't want him here.
He is, the one positive with Jim Harbaugh is that he has been. Actually, I'm gonna say two things here. One, he's been very good at developing quarterbacks.
Yep.
That's been a strength of his there.
Yeah.
And the second, he has managed an offense, which I think is what they've been trying to do in New England, which is mixing the spread offense in the passing game with the power running game. And there's, it's not the same as the Lions. It looks very different and they use different personnel, but there's some, I think, similarities between what the Patriots have wanted to do and what's been done at Michigan. So I think there could be a personnel fit. I'll also add the third thing. He's been a very good CEO type there, if that's what you're looking for. He's consistently, outside of, certain hires, he's consistently surrounded himself with very competent people who are very good at what they do. And, one of the hot guys on the market this offseason is going to be Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator in Baltimore. That's a Jim Harbaugh guy who was there at Michigan. So I think there's questions around Jim Harbaugh, and I'm not entirely sold on it, and questions around him, translating to the NFL. It's also, he's not the youngest guy anymore, so you don't know how long he'd be around, but I think you could do a lot worse.
No, listen, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. And I do think, look, I personally don't like Jim Harbaugh, and so I don't want to see him here because I don't like the guy. Maybe that's unfair, but that's how I feel.
Look, he's a strange human being.
He's a weird dude. But and I also think I want a young guy that's going to bring us into the 21st century. That's what I want. I want a young guy that's going to bring us into the 21st century. Do I think Gerard Mayo is going to do that? Not necessarily. Do I also think that we need something different? I think we need something different, right? We need a new. I feel like we have to almost clean house and get rid of all the coaches. Maybe if you can stay you want what's his name to stay on the offensive line, that's fine. Mike Pellegrino, I think. Adrian Clem is who I'm thinking of. Of course, Adrian Clem hasn't been around, but because he's been sick. But if you want Adrian Clem and Billy Yates to stay on the offensive line, I think they've been okay at the offensive line. I think Mike Pellegrino's done a really nice job with the corners. So if you want some guys stick around, sure, but I think a lot of those guys are going to have to go, and we'll see. I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want a Bill Belichick disciple as the next head coach, because I just feel like you're getting more of the same, right? Whereas I want to move into the 21st century. And listen, if Gerard Mayo was sitting here saying, "Hey, I love Bill, love Bill," we're moving on. We're not. This is no longer the Patriot way. This is no longer this. I have my own ideas about how I think things should be done, and he wants to do them that way. Then I don't necessarily hate it. It's just that's the biggest thing that I want to that I want to do.
Well, and it's tough right now because it's also tough to evaluate some of the current offensive coaches and the strategy there, because whoever they've put in at quarterback can't execute the strategy. I mean, you can't. How are you supposed to tell how good the ideas are if we only ever get to see what the ideas are when they're on the field being executed poorly?
Right. It's true.
So it makes it tough. That's why I actually really like the philosophy behind what the Patriots were doing. I just think they messed up really badly in evaluating the players to go into it.
Yeah.
But it's tough. We can't really tell because the players are so bad that it's hard to actually get an idea on what they wanted to do and how they want to do it. And you could see that with the quarterback play. It's just they don't know what they're doing out there. Bailey Zappi was late on every single throw he was trying to make outside of 2 or 3 of them. And one of them was that drop by Tyquan Thornton. So It's just
look, this is just it's been the same story over and over again, right? It's been the same story over and over again. Devontae Parker, Mac Jones hit him where only he could catch it right in the hands, in Vegas, and he dropped it. And not Devontae Parker now, Tyquan Thornton today, and it's happened over and over and over again. Even you go back to the Philly game, in the first game of the season, where Kendrick Bourne on 3rd and 12, he makes the play and he doesn't, right? Mac makes a great throw, and Bourne drops it, and they lose on the next play. So it just becomes it becomes some of those things. When I see people in the chat talking about Brady or Peyton Manning or someone like that, those guys, if you're going to be an NFL executive, you're an NFL lifer. You're a lifer. That's it. You're there, right? And so these guys work non-stop. So I just, I don't know.
I don't think Brady would be a good coach anyway, and I think he's kind of admitted that.
Yeah.
When that's, I mean, this is the issue too with guys who are that good. They don't understand how to teach other people the sport because it comes so naturally to them. And obviously, not taking away anything from Tom Brady's work ethic, because that's also outstanding. But you don't get to where he was if you don't have a really intuitive understanding of what's going on out there, and you're not thinking. That's why you see a lot of like backup quarterbacks become good coaches. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, who's done a really good job out there this season, back up in New England, and, journeyman type guy who had to do that. So no, it's. I don't hate the idea of Mayo as head coach either. I think whatever you do going forward, you have to have a vision, and you gotta like stay to it. Like you gotta whatever Kraft is doing, you gotta lean into something all the way. Don't have to do something.
I agree.
Commit behind whatever you're doing, and if it misses, it misses. But I think you got enough talent on this team that you go all in on trying to build up this offense as fast as you can, and you see what can happen. And if it falls flat, it falls flat, and you're back where you are right now. Who cares?
Right. And that's really what it comes down to, is that, pick something and stick with it. And honestly, like, I don't think Belichick is the right guy to lead this team anymore. Right. But if Robert Kraft is looking at this team and saying he's the only guy that we have left that I trust, and I feel like then what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? Stop watching the games? Like, that's on Kraft to make that decision, right? And so, it's going to be that's a tough decision to make. I don't know what they're looking at, but what are we going to do? Like, I hope that he doesn't make that decision, but if he does, it's just like is what it is. You gotta trust that he's gonna make the right decision and the right evaluation. And so, but we'll see. Look, we'll see. And I think too, like, for the Patriots, when you talk, and this is gonna be the one thing. Here's the one thing about this: it's gonna be such a fun offseason. There's a million free agents for the Patriots. They got $100 million in cap space, right? They might have a new coach. They're going to have a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of fun things to talk about, right? And people right now are discussing, take Marvin Harrison Jr., no, take Drake May, no, take Caleb Williams, no. What are they going to do? If they have the number 2 pick in the draft, what are they going to do? Are they going to draft Caleb Williams? Are they going to draft Drake May?
It's going to be. Oh my God! Patriots Twitter is going to be something. It's going to be like it's going to be like the Team Edward, Team Jacob stuff with Twilight, but with draft picks for the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months.
I did not see a Twilight reference coming, but I like it. But
but my girlfriend's going to love that one.
But it's it's one of those situations where it's like, do they fall in love with Michael Penix Jr. and they feel that they can get Michael Penix Jr. in the second round or late in the first round? Do they fall in love with Bo Nix? Which, God, I hope they don't. But, like, do they fall in love with Bo Nix? Like, I don't, like, who's the guy that they're like, oh, I like this guy a lot? Do they go crazy, right? Do they go crazy and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2 and trade a 4th-round pick to Chicago for Justin Fields? And then take another quarterback in the 4th, 5th round and just for the hell of it, just see what happens? And try and see if you can make something happen with Justin Fields, and see if that quarterback's got anything he can do. The quarterback that they draft later in the draft, and I haven't looked at the late round quarterback, so I'm not sure who that would be. But whatever. Say you take one of those quarterbacks later in the draft, and you just see, okay, is anything going to come of that? I don't know. They have a ton of options, right? And so I think that's really the situation. TJ wants to know if Drake May is Edward or Jacob. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know enough about Twilight to make some comparisons. Maybe I'll get back to you on that one.
So, but I think that's really the situation, and they should not give Lee Cunningham a shot before drafting a quarterback, because if you're drafting a quarterback at the number 2 overall spot or the number 1 overall spot, come on now.
Well, they can give Lee Cunningham a shot. Why not? Give a fan a shot on the last game of the season. It literally does not matter what they do with the quarterback position. None of these guys are good. None of these guys are the guy, and they're picking high enough to take a guy who could be the guy if they like him. So the solutions are possible for this team. Solutions are not coming in the next 5 weeks, although they technically are not eliminated from the playoffs. I believe they would be with a loss on the Thursday night, which I think is pretty obviously going to be happening.
That'd be pretty nice. So, by the way, someone says Roberto said that Drake May is another Mac Jones. Just because he's white doesn't mean that
I have my issues with Drake May right now as a prospect, but I do think he's a better prospect than Mac Jones was coming out 100%. Right. And if Mac was coming out in this draft class, he'd be with like the Michael Penix. He'd be in like the JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix conversation.
Right.
So he wouldn't be like, he'd be a late first, high second type in this group. So I think I gotta, it's been really annoying. I've tried to watch more Jaden Daniels tape, and it's really hard to find like the actual coach's film. So I'm hoping I can get more of that at some point, because I want to look at him and see what they got. But they need receivers too. That's the thing. You gotta their second round pick probably matters as much as their first round pick here.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And then also going back for a second, I texted you about this Friday night, but for second round pick, that left tackle that Washington has, I was watching that game. He's got some nasty stuff as a run blocker, and there's talk about him projecting inside to guard. So that's the kind of guy where you take a pick like that, and you don't know yet if he's going to be a tackle or a guard, but he can block well, and you can have him compete with Strange for a job. You can have him kick outside the tackle as the Trent Brown heir or whatever. But
I'm telling you, I think at this point right now, and we talked about it, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds here with draft talk, but like, I don't know, man. I honestly wonder if you sign Trent Brown and Mike Onwenu back, your first round pick should be a quarterback, your second round pick should be a wide receiver. Like, I just think that's where you go. Now, maybe you sign T. Higgins in free agency and you say we don't need to, but I think you should still be drafting wide receivers even if you sign someone like T. Higgins. I just feel like I don't know.
I got issues with T. Higgins is tough for me too, because it's like he's had a rough season.
I know.
And it's, you get worried that's another Devontae Parker. I'm not worried about the mindset of him, but he doesn't separate.
I get it.
And we're looking for juice.
Right. You're right. But I don't know who else is out there, right? And who are you going to get?
This is the tough thing, is that it's very hard to get those premium players unless you draft them. So that's the simplest solution here, is to draft somebody with pick 34 that ends up being an all-pro wide receiver. That's kind of the goal here.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do if you want is, if you're sitting there at 34 and pick 23 is on the board, and like Roma Dunze from Washington still hasn't come off, and you trade up for him, that type of thing.
Right.
And you pair him with Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels or whomever.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that idea either.
It just, it becomes a situation where, and again, if you're drafting a 2, if you're drafting a 2, do you think about trading back to 3? And well, maybe not to 3. I mean, this is the hard thing, right? If you want a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., you got to take him at 2, because if you're moving back to 3, it's because the team at 3 wants to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Like that's the situation. By the way, someone mentioned Mike Evans. Mike Evans, 10 straight years with 1,000 yards receiving every year. I'd
love to bring it. In some ways, I'd almost rather him over T. Higgins, only because the fact that he's older means you're going to get him cheaper, and he can almost be like a nice bridge receiver for you while you figure out the rest. Although, look, depending on what they want to do, if you draft Neighbors or Odunze or Marvin Harrison Jr., and you go out there with him, Kendrick Bourne, and Demario Douglas, and the draft pick hits like you think it will, it's a fine receiving group. One of the issues, one of the reasons this offense looks so bad right now is that they only have two good players. They have two playmakers in this entire offense, and they're hurt.
Right.
And it's just like they're not. That's a tough spot to be. They're bad, but they're also unlucky right now.
They're also hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we're watching right now, this is the 2000 Patriots, but without Drew Bledsoe. That's what we're seeing.
Right.
Lots of really ugly games and these one score losses, and the offense can't move the ball because the quarterback play isn't there. But you know, you get on a couple of things and you can get it going in the right direction. They're going to have the draft capital to do it. You just got to make it work.
Yep. So, anyways, all right, let's get the heck out of here. We have a whole offseason to talk about draft talk. We're going to spend a ton of time doing it. Just a reminder that since the game is on Thursday and I'm going to Pittsburgh on Wednesday night, that we will be recording on Tuesday night, not on our typical Wednesday night. So we'll be going from there. I think I'm going to schedule the podcast to come out Thursday morning instead of Friday morning, which is our typical.
We're having a guest on Tuesday, right?
I believe so. Yes, that's the plan. I got to figure out exactly who it's going to be, and then we are. Yeah, you know who it's going to be, right? We've already talked about that, right? So we are having a guest on Tuesday, and then on Thursday you're going to be a solo man on Thursday. So if you want,
oh boy,
if you want to pick someone else up, just because I don't know how I'm going to record right after the game on Thursday night.
Yeah, that would be tough
from the hotel room in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that hotel Wi-Fi is something else.
Oh yeah, yep. Not just that, but it's also like It's a studio. I can't. What am I supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me tell you, there's what do you call it? College basketball podcast I listen to, and it's the CBS one. And the guys who do it are always traveling for games and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just every other episode, it's some guy in a hotel, or like the Wi-Fi is not working, or somebody forgot something. Like the number of times they started a podcast episode, and it's I'm sorry I sound bad. I forgot the cord, and somebody's mailing it to me from the last hotel I was in.
I love it. It's so good.
It kills me. This Kansas City Green Bay game is interesting.
Turned out to be a good game. I'll tell you what, Green Bay has turned a corner. Green Bay has turned a corner. They looked like they were really bad, and Jordan Love has played extremely well as of late. They are 8 minutes left? Yeah, they're still up by 2. I mean, they're playing well. So
giving them a shot.
Helping my fantasy team too, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I know we didn't talk about it, but we did get a question in there. College football playoff. Do you have any thoughts on the field?
Just quickly, look. Here's the really hard thing. I understand that putting in FSU probably would have been the right thing to do. But I also understand not putting in FSU. Like, their starting quarterback is out for the year. He's not playing anymore, right? And I know their backup played okay, but they're clearly not the same team anymore. Clearly, they're not the same team anymore.
And not only that, the thing that kind of swayed me on this, forget about the quarterback thing. Florida State's undefeated with the 55th hardest schedule in college football.
Right.
Alabama has one loss with the 5th hardest schedule in all of college football, and that included a win over a number 1 team in there.
Right.
Even you forget the quarterback thing, that resume difference alone is enough to at least have them be like a tie, and then the quarterback is a pretty clear tiebreaker there. So I was very pro FSU, and then I kind of went through some of the reasoning last night, and I was like, okay, I thought they were going to put FSU in because they put Ohio State in when they were down to their 3rd string quarterback way back in the first one of these back in 2014, and I thought the committee was going to do that, but I was like, I'm going to understand if they do put in Bama here. And I think Michigan Bama being like a pick 'em right now, I think says a lot. It's close. Says a lot about, Bama is a very good team.
Well, and I think Alabama has the single most impressive win of the season, right? They beat the number 1 team in the nation.
Defending champs.
Right.
The only other win that could be more impressive than that one right now is Texas over Alabama by 10 at Alabama. Those are
right. And Texas is in. Right. And so that's the argument where it's You can't make the argument Texas. You couldn't, in my opinion, you couldn't not put Texas in. But I get it. I understand why you didn't put FSU. Ultimately, you want the 4 teams in, but this is why a 12-team tournament's a million times better. Because if FSU really is that good and they really feel like they can compete, now you get your chance.
See, I was a big proponent of the 12-team playoff when they announced it, and now the closer we've gotten to it, the less I enjoy it, because I look at it, and I'm a Michigan fan, so I'll put that out there. But like Michigan, Ohio State, 2 weeks ago, Thanksgiving weekend, was as big, or that a week ago, was as big a deal as it was, because that is an elimination game. Not only is it a rivalry game, it is an elimination game at the end of the season. Right. And now what's going to happen is they're going to play in the last week of every season, and the Big Ten's changing it to the conference championships between the 2 top teams. So what's probably going to happen is Michigan and Ohio State play on somebody's home field on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. 1 week later, we'll play on a neutral site for the Big Ten championship, even though they just played. Yep. And then after that, might meet in the playoff. And it's like, I don't know. One of the big appeals of college football is that the season's short and you really only play teams once, maybe twice. There shouldn't be situations here where teams are playing each other 3 times. That makes no sense to me.
I do agree with you. However, if Michigan and Ohio State play twice and one of those teams wins twice, that's it. That team's out. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily, because if it's Michigan, Ohio State's going to drop to like 10. Right. And they'll still get in, and they'll still be good, and they'll win their team, and then, they'll end up, going back to Michigan in the second round or whatever.
Yeah, you could be right. And you could be right. And listen, but I ultimately think my big thing is that let's get the best teams in there. Just get the best teams in. I want to see more of the best teams. Look, because someone mentioned too, like Georgia had a case. Georgia loses 1 game this year. They lost 1 game. They were the number 1 team that lost 1 game and they're out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, I understand that, right? But Alabama lost and they're in. Texas, is Texas undefeated?
No.
Okay. So
they lost Oklahoma.
Right. So now you look at it and say, okay, how many undefeated teams are there? Michigan's undefeated, yes.
It's just Michigan. For Power Conference, it's Michigan, Washington, and Florida State. And then I believe Liberty is also undefeated. They may have lost their conference championship.
Right. So Michigan and Washington make it. Alabama loses, and they're in.
Yeah.
Right. And so you start looking at it and saying, well, we got 2 1-loss teams in there. Right. And so, and look, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in there. I'm just saying that Georgia has 1 loss against Alabama. Like,
the thing that I saw that I kind of liked, that I thought made it a good mix of traditional college football in this, is to go back to the old BCS bowl system, where you get the conference tie-ins and everybody goes to a bowl.
Yeah.
And then to do rankings after that and to pick the 2 best teams for a national championship. Because then you'd have like the Rose Bowl as Michigan, Washington right now, and you'd have, I don't know all the other bowl tie-ins. But basically, all of these issues we'd be talking about would be solved in these traditional bowl games, and you get to keep the pageantry and that. And then a week later, whatever, you pick a whole bunch of bowl games to be played in a short window, and you pick January 2nd or whatever to be the day that it's like, all right, we're going to announce who's in the national championship game, and you play it a week later. I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the appeal of the college football playoff is that you do get games on home field, like the 12 team. I think that's a lot of fun. I think we should do more of that in college football. I think less neutral site games is a good thing. The atmospheres are fun. Like that's what we need.
Yeah.
And I want to see, like LSU have to go play at some team up north in January or December. Like that's fun. Let's see some of that. These SEC teams going into cold weather environments in January. That's not something that ever happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. So we'll see. So anyways, all right, let's get out of here. Some good college football talk there for you football heads out there.
We've had almost more college football talk than Patriots talk on the show the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So
Patriots
But,
not on the In the Hunt graphic on NBC
They're not.
Sports.
They are not. No, and nor should they be anywhere near it.
No,
So,
not in the hunt. They are the hunt this year.
yeah, I agreed. So, anyways, well, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to be back, like I said, Tuesday night. We'll be back with a special guest, and then Matt will be flying solo unless he can pull someone in with him on Thursday night after the game. And that's it. But thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys, and we'll
if
talk
you
to you
guys,
soon.
if you guys have any like team building future questions strategy wise for the Patriots that you want answered on Tuesday, send them in because we got our guest specializes in that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of where we're we're right? Like we're not breaking down games. I'm sorry. We're not having a lengthy discussion about Bailey Zappi versus Mitchell Trubisky. It's not happening. So,
Does it matter? Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
anyways, all right, guys, appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.